Well, hello, BookTube. Welcome back to the History Shelf. I am so excited today to have back someone who's been on this program before, Scott Edwin Williams. We've talked before about his light bulb moments in history. He is back to talk about some of his new books, including this fantastic book. If you love travel writing and comedy, this guy right here. He's got you covered with Unearthed, a history nerd abroad in Europe. And we also have a new version for kids. We invented civilization, and we're gonna dive into some of these new books from Lightbulb Moments. But first, Scott, welcome back to the History Shelf.
Thanks, Peg. Hi, everybody.
Yeah,
nice to be back. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it's been about a couple of years, I think.
I think it's only been a year, actually.
Has it only been a year?
Yeah,
it feels like
it seems like longer.
Yes, we've definitely. You've been globetrotting the world, and I've just been putting out these videos, so the time just goes by.
yeah, and I've been writing a lot too. I've had a kind of the creative year from. Not hell, but I'm not quite sure. It's not always been heaven either.
It's somewhere in between. It's purgatory.
Somewhere in between. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming back on to talk about what you've been up to since our last time that we talked. And I'm gonna pop in some images of the books, but well. Where should we begin? What have you been up to in the last year? Talk to us about Unearthed, because you went traveling. And I remember last time when we talked, you said you were planning on this trip, or you were thinking of it. And then it came to fruition into this fantastic and just, it's just so funny. I just can't stress this enough that Scott is a very talented writer.
Thank you.
You crack me up, is what you do. But yeah, talk to us. What made you decide to, pull up stakes and just say, you know what, enough of me writing about the past. I'm going to go see some of these places.
Well, I think what happened was I'd been writing about the past as a very remote thing, very not academically, because I'm not an academic writer, but it had an academic aspect from the point of view that I hadn't been to a lot of these places. So I'm trying to talk authoritatively about things that I'd never seen. Mm-hmm. So when I finally got to see the things, it had such a profound effect on me that I felt I really had to write about it. That was pretty much where that came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and you get right into it. There were so many things in the beginning of this book too that I was just like, I can't, take up all the time talking about it, but I loved your description about you being a nervous flyer, because I am too. Even though I served in the Air Force, you think, and I love airplanes, but at the same time, there was a part where you had me cracking up out loud, like you get obsessed watching crash investigation videos. I'm like, yeah, same. Watching videos of planes cartwheeling down. I was like, Scott, I feel you right here. But see, that's the thing that would keep me, and this is why I found it fascinating that you got over your fears, because, flying long distances, going to different countries, there's the language barrier, there's the currency, there's things that I just would not know how to handle these type of things. But I liked how you not only talked about the sites that you went to, and we'll get into the different sites and what you found most compelling, but just the aspect of travel itself. How do you prepare a journey like this? Like, how do you schedule it?
Well, yeah, it's a tough one, because I had come from a family of travelers. But I traveled a lot in my youth, but I'd gone through about a period of nearly 30 years where I hadn't traveled much at all. So I was feeling a bit like a neophyte, even though I'd done it before. The world of travel had changed since I had been traveling. It was all online bookings, and you didn't get the travel agent to book it for you. You booked it all yourself, and there's a lot more. It's easier, but it's also more stressful because you take responsibility for all the things you're booking. So, and this becomes a kind of like a plot point in the book, is that I decided that to make sure I saw the things I wanted to see, I would book a bus tour. Even though I'm very much against the whole idea of bus tours, I just thought it takes all the guesswork out of it. I don't have to worry about all the things you have to worry about if you're getting from A to B and catching flights and all that kind of stuff. I just would do this tour. And it was interesting.
Yes, you call it tour bus syndrome.
Yes. Because the problem with the tour bus is, of course, you get to see all the things you want to see, but not for as long as you want to see them. Yeah. And sometimes you'll get, like in the Louvre, for instance. I was there for 3 hours. Now, 3 hours doesn't scratch the surface of the Louvre, and I got to see three things. I got to see Venus de Milo, Winged Victory, and of course, the Mona Lisa.
Yes, which begins the book in epic fashion. Do you know why that happened? Yeah, tell everyone.
Do I know why? Okay. Well, I'd been lined up like everybody. Everyone's corralled into going into the Mona Lisa because even though it's not actually a very impressive painting, there are so many more impressive pieces of artwork in the Louvre. It's just got that reputation. So I had to go, even though I wasn't that worried about it. And they corral you, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people being. It's like some kind of a cattle being corralled. And so I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I can see it. I turned around, took my selfie with the Mona Lisa in the background. And then I thought, that's close enough. So I then started to get out of the queue. And then once you get out of the corralling, you can walk around the outside because they've got baffles that keep you into this corral. So I walked around the outside of these baffles and was going around to get to another part of the Louvre. And as I was walking around, I saw the section where they let people out of the corralling. And suddenly I turned and there was the Mona Lisa, like maybe 3 meters away. Wow. And I was much, much, much closer than I was before. So I turned around to take another selfie, and this Louvre guard just came at me like I was a terrorist. Oh my God. Waving his arms, and he actually tried to take my phone off me. I'm like, I just took I'm not trying to rush in or anything. It was I mean, I don't overstate it in the book. I was traveling with a friend, CJ, and he plays quite a big part in the book, but he wasn't there at the time. And when I finally come up to him and said, hey, this happened, he's like, oh, come on, can't have been that bad. I said, it really, really was. I felt like there was an international incident about to happen. And looking back at the last month where the Louvre got robbed recently, if they only protected half their other things the way they protect the Mona Lisa, then maybe they wouldn't have got robbed, because those guys would have been pounced upon by Louvre guards. But no, they don't.
Right. And I love the artwork. That kind of tells you everything you need to know here. Let me get up there. Yeah, I'm going to come back to the artwork later so you can give props to the artist. Yeah. Was it because of the flash? Because I've been told when I've been in art museums that you can't do flash photography because it will deplete the paint. Or
yeah, that is true. But no, I didn't have the flash on.
Oh.
And so I think all I can think of is he thought I was trying to push in the outdoor, which I wasn't trying. And I don't know how he could possibly have thought that. But nevertheless, that's what I think he must have realized, because there was no other reason to get quite so violent with me.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm a pretty benign character.
You're right. But I know you gave that guy some choice words in the book too. You're like, you're not taking my phone. Yeah, you did.
No,
That's
I
okay.
may have said sort of expletives in that, but it was such a shock.
I would be shocked too. I would be kind of like
Mm,
mortified. I'd be like, what
yeah.
did I do wrong? Well, talk to us about where you started in, just because because I've read it, but for the folks out there who have not, and I highly recommend that you do, because this is a very fun book. And if you like travel, travel logs, travel writing, it's a mixture of all of that plus history and what history meant to you, so I made some notes of some of uh, the places you went, and but you started off in England,
Yeah,
correct?
I have a sister living in England, so I hadn't seen her for 10 years. So I
Mhm.
was catching up with her, and she was my base in London, so that made travel really easy because I basically got there. I didn't immediately meet up with my friend, and so I had a few days just to sort of get out there and see a few things before he arrived. And
Mhm.
so I did some of the things he said he didn't want to do. So he didn't particularly care about going to Stonehenge, didn't care about going to Bath, didn't
Yep.
particularly care about a few other things that I desperately wanted to do. So
Mhm.
I sort of took them out of very early on in the piece. So you go.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask about. It was funny because we're doing this tour of Bath, and Bridgerton came into it. And by the
Yes.
time it was all over, you're like, "Bosh, the Bridgerton, I'm done with all that." Um, is there any like anecdotes you want to share about like what you saw there and what you learned, or?
In Bath. Yeah, look, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful town.
Mhm.
It's absolutely full of tourists. Certainly, when I was there, it was very touristy, and rightly so. It's incredibly picturesque, Georgian town. Um, Everything there is. It's just. It's very unlike many British cities, which got bombed during the Second World War. It was left basically untouched. So it's much more sort of authentically old than,
Mhm.
say, even London. London has amazingly old things in it, but there are a lot of parts that were destroyed or rebuilt. And so there's nowhere that has this overall sort of old vibe, quite like, say, um, Bath, or later on the tour, I went to Oxford, which was also very much like that. Different look. It wasn't, Oxford's not as pretty as Bath, but it's got that same old vibe.
Mhm.
Bath, famous for the Roman baths, which I was desperate to see. And if you see any photographs of the Roman baths, it looks amazing. You think, oh wow, how can it look so good after all these, couple of thousand years? And I hadn't really done my homework, because when I got there, I was thinking, wow, the outside of that building where the baths are looks terribly Georgian. I wonder what's going on there. And so when I finally got inside, I realized that most of the stuff that I thought was authentically Roman, that's overtly visible, is not Roman. It's Georgian. They just rebuilt it to look Roman because they were trying to be sympathetic. And I was initially very, very upset. I'm thinking, oh, I've come here, I've done all this, and it's not even Roman. And what am I, and getting all hot and bothered about it all. But when I finally got in there, and you go down into the sort of the bowels of the earth and through all the different places that are authentically Roman in the Baths area, it actually is pretty amazing. So after my initial sort of feeling a bit ripped off, I actually kind of feel like it could have been done a lot worse.
Mhm.
What they had to protect it. They made it look reasonably authentic. So after my initial um, being a bit sort of haughty about it, I've actually appreciate what they did. So yeah,
Mhm.
that was great. I was very upset by the Jane Austen tea rooms, which I found to be like just a total tourist trap. I cased it from the outside, because there's the Jane Austen tea rooms right next door to the Mary Shelley Frankenstein
Yeah.
exhibition thing, and they're
Mhm.
in beautiful old Georgian terrace buildings, but I looked from the outside and I'm like, this is just a tourist trap. And I mean, I know some people would love it. And I talk about one person on my tour who is a Bridgerton loving person who just thought they were the best things in the world, and that's fine. And people are allowed to feel whatever they feel. But for me, it just I was looking for authentic. I can see fake stuff in Australia all the time. So I was out there looking for a real connection with real history, and to see fake stuff was just like not on my radar.
No,
so
not
that
on
was
your
disappointing.
radar.
But then it is a beautiful place. I mean, I give credit where credit's due. I don't think maybe I give it enough credit in the book in retrospect. I mean, there's a sort of an abbey there, beautiful old church. It's lovely. Everywhere you walk, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
It was very good. But 5 hours was a long time to be there.
Yeah. That was. I did like how you kind of brought in some of your personal experiences as far as like with Jane Austen. I liked how you shared your personal story of how, you were laid up with an injury and, you're like, oh, I guess I don't have anything better to do. Let me try reading Pride and Prejudice again. And then you loved it. And then you're all about Jane Austen. So
it was quite because I was in high school and had to read it, and I was desperately trying not to. I broke my leg playing soccer, and then I literally flat on my back for 2 weeks, and I read it, and it was, I wouldn't say it was life-changing, but certainly I would not have had an appreciation for what an amazing writer Jane Austen is if I hadn't read it. I think I would have then avoided it for the rest of my life and probably seen TV adaptations and not quite got the whole Jane Austen experience, which is pretty amazing.
Wow. Right. Well, that was I found that really endearing because, it's not just, where you've been, it's also about how it impacts you, and what these different people and places mean to you. And especially like when you get to Stonehenge, I thought that was a very powerful moment. In the book where history really did come alive to you. When you talk about Stonehenge.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Stonehenge for me was like an absolute paradigm shift. It was probably the first truly ancient thing I ever saw up close. Like, I mean, yes, I have some little curio things in my cabinet that are like Roman relics and stuff, and they are the same age or possibly older. But to an actual old structure, that was. And it was incredible. And I was on this tour which was meant to have 54 people or something, had 14, and we arrived at Stonehenge just before sunset, and so I was wandering around Stonehenge, like literally, because I paid for to be able to wander inside the circle. Apparently, a lot of tours you just get to stand at a respectful distance and wave at it. But I've got to walk around. So I'm walking around the Sarsen stones and the trilithons, and then the sun sets, and then I got an amazing photograph of the sun just setting between the stones, exactly like you'd expect, how many 5,000 years ago, and it was quite a spiritual experience. I mean, I got there and we'd been warned we shouldn't touch the stones. Well, of course. Don't tell me that. So I did lay a hand on one of the stones, and it was like, wow, this is that was good, and it was like a real connection.
Yeah.
But that was only the prelude to the sun setting, and like kind of being connected to what it was all set up for in the first place, and that was transcendent. That was, in fact, it kind of. Through everything I did in the next couple of weeks, it just put it into a perspective, whereas nothing was ever going to affect me quite like that. I mean, I went to Rome, and Rome is brilliant. I went saw so many amazing things in Rome that I'd always wanted to see. And if I'd gone there first and had that experience in Rome, I would have had that connection to the Roman things. But this, I will never, ever forget this experience at Stonehenge. It really connected me to the kind of things that I'd been writing about, the kind of things that I felt about history, that had only been a strong sort of interest, but I hadn't really felt it in my heart, I don't think. And to get that connection, it's like, oh, it's very spiritual in a way. I mean, I do have that kind of not Anglo, but that kind of Celtic heritage. And I was hoping that might just be enough, but that wasn't enough until I was there for the sunset, and I was like, okay, it's won me over.
Mm-hmm.
So that was brilliant, and I would heartily recommend it to anybody. Do it. Make sure you go for sunset. Make sure you just take the time and like try it. I was very lucky to get a tour that was undersubscribed. They must have been pretty close to cancelling it, I imagine, for 14 people. But it was like I was literally there, and there were parts when I'm wandering around the stones where I couldn't see any other human.
Wow.
And
so you could actually like imagine yourself like it's before the dawn of time, or well, you know what I mean, like back at that moment. Yes.
And of course, where you are on the Salisbury Plain, there is a very big sort of visitor centre, but it's over the hill and far away. You don't see it. If you're in the Stonehenge circle, all you can see are rolling fields. My pictures got this dramatic sort of grey clouds, and then the sun bursting through it. It was very sort of like something out of a Cecil B. DeMille biblical. The sun coming through in the it was incredible.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, you mentioned you took photographs. Are those just you're keeping kind of those to yourself because they're not in the book?
No, it's not that I was considering putting them in the book, and I just decided that they may not look that great in black and white, which they would have been in the book.
Yeah.
And also I didn't know how much I wanted this to be. I was trying to get away from the light bulb moments, everything's a picture kind of thing. I wanted to be more writing. And yes, there are those little sort of pictures at the beginning of each chapter.
Yes.
But that's it. There's no other pictures in the book. And that was a conscious decision I made, just to try to get away from the same format.
Yeah. Because this is like a memoir. It's, like I said, travelogue, it's travel writing also, but it's got the historical venues. So I think it works without the photos. I was just curious if at some point maybe you'll post them on your website or something.
Well, I probably should. I don't know why I hadn't considered that, but I hadn't considered it. It was, there are some I don't really want to post loads of me sort of, hi. There are a lot of, but I took a couple of amazing photographs of Stonehenge with the sunset, and it's on the horizon. In fact, I had the TV set in the background, and at one stage I was considering putting one of the Stonehenge pictures on the screen, but then when I saw it, it was flickering. You have sometimes TV screens can flicker on, and when you're reproducing.
Yeah.
So it didn't look good. So I decided I'd best turn it off. But
okay.
I would happily share those, and particularly that one it's like the best picture I've ever taken of one of the most amazing times in my life. So it's very meaningful.
Well, if you decide to post it on your website, that's one I would really love to see, because it sounds amazing. Just like gives you goosebumps.
It certainly gave me goosebumps. Yeah,
I bet. Well, and then so after England, you went to the continent, right? You went to Paris.
Yeah. So I hopped on the tour. I caught up with my friend CJ. And we actually, before we got on the tour, we spent a night on a houseboat on the Thames, which was interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
And then right near Hampton Court, sort of Henry VIII's palace. So I did a tour of that. But then we caught the Eurostar train through the Channel. So we just went under the English Channel to Paris.
Yeah.
And then like probably 4 days after this amazing sunset at Stonehenge, I had a sunset on the top of the Eiffel Tower, which would have been the most amazing thing I'd ever seen if it hadn't been for Stonehenge.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Stonehenge really blew everything out of the water.
It did. I mean, it didn't spoil it. Don't get me wrong. It didn't spoil the moment.
Yeah.
But I think the whole reason for traveling was just to make that connection. And that was the moment the connection was made. And after that, every other thing, it didn't pale, but the connection was already there. And I was feeling, I was in the right headspace to make all those right connections. So it was, it just was the transcendent moment that changed my sort of perspective on lots of things.
So as that was happening, Scott, were you also writing down notes like at the end of your day? Like, how are you tracking all of this?
Okay, well, definitely writing notes. CJ and I, we were doing a twin share kind of thing, and sometimes we'd turn on a tape recorder and just talk about the day. So
Oh,
if we didn't feel like writing, we didn't want to go over the things that happened. So we had some sort of comprehensive audio tapes of things that we could also look back on. But yeah, a lot of it is also just based on like the photographs, hundreds and hundreds of photographs, and they also make massive connections. So combination of notes, the audio tapes, and the photographs. And it was only a short time after the trip that I really started doing it. So it's all very fresh.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, I really do want to dive into like how this will impact your writing going forward, like this connection to history. But if you can kind of maybe just for our viewers, kind of go through some of the other sites that you visited really quickly.
Yeah, sure.
I know, like Pompeii. Like I would love to see Pompeii. You went to Italy and Florence. It's a lot in those 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot. It was too fast. Like Florence was simultaneous. Well, it was obviously the fulfillment of something I'd always wanted to do, but it was very disappointing, not because of Florence, but because of the extremely short time we spent there. I couldn't do even a quarter of the things you should do in Florence. I probably should be there for a week, and I was there for like 9 hours. Didn't even stay in Florence.
Wow.
Didn't get to go in the Uffizi Gallery. Didn't get to see the original statue of David, only the sort of copy, which is still amazing, and it's full size and it's massive. Wow. Didn't get to go inside the Duomo, or the outside, but not the inside. It's just, there were lots of things. There are a lot of regrets about Florence, only because of the incredibly short period of time we went. And I knew going in there, it wasn't like a shock, because I knew what the itinerary was for the tour, and I knew it was going to be difficult to see what I needed to see. So I was pretty strategic. That was one of the things I used to drive my friend CJ crazy, because he was not a history guy, and he famously said to me at one stage when we were planning it, I'm saying, okay, we need at least 4 days in Rome. He's going, 4 days in Rome? What are we going to do for Rome in 4 days? Can't we spend more time in Amsterdam? And I said, you're freaking kidding me. You can go to Amsterdam. I'm staying in Rome.
Yeah. I don't think like Amsterdam. I think of the red light district. I think of crazy stuff. I'd rather be in Rome, looking at all that ancient history and architecture. And
So I mean, he eventually understood why, but he had very few preconceived ideas, whereas I had everything mapped out in my head. So he basically because we did have time before the tour and after the tour. And even during the tour, when we had brief moments like the time in Florence, I knew what I needed, what I could see, and what I had to see at the time we had, and was very strategic about it. And even though I had regrets, I knew I did the best I could with the time I had. So, so I think he appreciated that in the end. But it was. I had to fight for Rome.
It's interesting too. The book describes how you were going to go on this trip by yourself, and then your friend's like, "Hey, would you like company?" And you're like, "Oh my gosh, this would really solve a lot of things." But at the same time, if you're traveling with someone who is not a history person, I can see where that would be. Okay, well, this is why I want to go here, and
there was an awful lot of teaching going on.
I bet. In a friendly way, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I do think he appreciated it. Like, we were
Mhm.
wandering through the Vatican galleries, and I'm telling him why this thing he's looking at, which he's like, I'm going, this is in every art history textbook. This is incredible, and he's like, oh, really? Okay.
You're like, you're not getting it. It's really important.
Yes.
Well, one of the questions I was I was going to ask you, but you really answered it in the answering about Stonehenge. But if there was another like favorite moment or experience or historical site that really was powerful outside of Stonehenge, because we know that
Yep.
was it. What was it?
Okay. Well, then I'm going to say something that happened towards the very end, and it was at that point that something came together for me, I think. So, what I'll preface it by saying, all the way through the tour, we were going to places like I was in Stonehenge and touched the stars and stones and felt this connection. Then everywhere I went from there on, it's like, oh yeah, so and so would have stood around here, or like when you go to the Forum, there's a place where they claim Julius Caesar's body was burned, and there's fresh flowers laid there every day. And it's like, well, if this is true, Julius Caesar was just lying there.
Wow. Yeah.
Or you go to there's looking over the Forum area. There's the remnants of a palace where Caligula had been, and there's like a walkway, the Caligula's walkway, all things like that. And you think, wow. And it started to make me feel like I'd heard this theory, and it's called, I'm just looking at my notes here, block universe theory. And it's a theory that everything, all time is happening at the same moment. We're only able, it's like a book. The book's sitting there, but we can only read one page at a time. But the whole book is always there. So it's like all the moments, past, present, future, all exist at once, and we can only read them in order. And so even after someone dies, the earlier chapters of their life are still there in the book. And it's like almost like it's a bit oogity boogity, but it's not. It's like it was referenced by Einstein when he was talking about a friend of his who died, basically saying that he's still never quite dead because of all this previous stuff he did, and he still exists in that part of time. So I found that strangely comforting, but it also made me think every time I went somewhere that almost like on some kind of spooky level, there were passing through where people had been before. These people, famous, so the culmination of that was going to Westminster Abbey, where every British monarch since the 14th century has been crowned, where many famous people are buried. You've got like Newton, you've got Dickens, Winston Churchill. Think about anybody in the British Brains Trust over a few thousand years. They're all buried there. And there was a very strong feeling of not only connection, but also that was also a bit spiritual. I'm not a particularly spiritual person, so I'm not somebody who's all sort of woo woo. But to me, it was a beautiful place. The Westminster Abbey, very imposing, and if you were someone who was very religious, I could imagine it would engender religious feelings. But it was also just incredible. Like, you think you're walking through the front steps and you're thinking, well, Queen Elizabeth walked through here when she was going for a coronation, and all that. Every King Henry VIII, all these people had walked through this door. And it was that was affecting. So
is that what she was?
Funny.
She was laid to rest there too, right?
Wasn't actually final... no, she wasn't. No, I was where the funeral service was, but she wasn't buried there. She's buried at I think maybe at Windsor. I'm not sure.
Oh,
but I don't think she was buried there. Yeah.
Okay.
But then there were funny things like there's the coronation chair, which is on display.
Oh,
And you think,
right.
oh, the coronation chair, it's been the same chair that people have, well, every monarch has used since 1308 or something. And it's an old wooden chair that people have carved things into over 700 years. And like there's a carving on there, and some had gotten in there somehow and carved his name. I forget his name, but it says something like, John Smith slept here, you know, and apparently, like nowadays, they obviously it's behind glass and you can't get to it. But
Yeah.
once upon a time, they didn't look after it that well, and still they continue to use it. It's the chair, but it's got graffiti all over it. It's not what you'd expect.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's all sorts of weird stuff in there, and interestingly weird. And on that
Hmm.
same day, I went to the Churchill War Rooms, which is the bunker he used during World War II, where he ran basically all the war stuff from. And there was another sort of deja vu kind of moment where there's this, like, obviously you see the cabinet room, the war room, and where they all sat smoking cigars and arguing about everything. If you've ever seen the movie called Their Finest Hour, that's
Yeah.
what it will be like.
Hmm.
But there's a room which it's funny. It's a tiny little room, and it's got a little like a toilet sign kind of gauge, an engaged sign on it, but it wasn't a toilet. It was everyone thought it was Churchill's private toilet, but it was in fact a radio room where he used to go and speak to Franklin Roosevelt.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so I'm sitting here again, standing, looking in this doorway, thinking, some of the most consequential conversations of the past 100 years took place in this room.
Hmm.
It's just those kind of connection things, and the whole feeling of the block universe thing, which started to really get to me. But by the end of it, it was I started to feel probably too much. I think I was probably reading
Okay.
into it all a bit too much. But
Hmm.
it's still, I think it was part of this connection that I was looking for. That's why I went and did it, to feel the connection that I'd never have felt that here,
Hmm.
in the Southern
Hmm.
Hemisphere, so far away from all this stuff. So I had to travel to get that feeling, and it was definitely a feeling worth getting.
Wow. That is powerful. And, just you sharing that reminded me of my own, I guess, block theory moment.
Mm.
Um, and it's a moment where yes, all the millennia or hundreds of years just disappear, and you feel like you're in the presence of the past and the present meet.
Mm.
I was visiting a friend down in the south of of the United States,
Yeah.
in Alabama, and there was the uh, the initial Confederate White House was in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we went in there, this old plantation house, and this is where Confederate President Jefferson Davis started out. And up in one of the rooms, of course, the architecture was just amazing and old, and but there was some artifacts underneath glass, and one of them was a, a portion of the Confederate uniform. It was a little piece of fabric that had the blood stain on it. That was from when Stonewall Jackson was shot by
Oh,
friendly
lost his
fire, and
arm.
that was his blood.
Wow.
I know, and I'm just like looking at it, and it's like I am looking. It just everything. It. I know what you're talking about, because there's this sense of like everything. The sense of time goes away, and it's like I'm
Mm.
looking at this piece of fabric with his blood on it. It's so wild.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me. I went to the British Maritime Museum, and they have a big exhibition about Horatio Nelson. And I don't think he's quite as big a hero in the States, but in the Commonwealth countries, England, the Commonwealth countries, Nelson is like pretty much
He's huge.
prior to Churchill. He was like the quintessential British hero kind of character.
Yeah.
And they have his uniform, the uniform he was in when he was shot on the deck of his ship, and there's the bullet hole in where it came through, and there's a little bit of blood on that too, and that's
Mhm.
quite
Doesn't Yeah.
affecting. Yeah,
It is quite affecting. Yeah, that's the perfect word.
yeah.
It really was affecting. Um, so let's talk about how, you know, do you feel like as you go forward in your writings, what this trip will bring to your writing and your research on topics, or are you going to do something new as well? I don't know.
Okay, well, I've got a couple of things, and I will talk more about what's coming in the future. But I've been, how do I get that? I think it's definitely given me more of a connection to things, and I'm feeling now. I've started to write like these. We'll talk about the kids book. Well, not kids, but the middle school young
Yes.
adult book I've been writing. But that rather than being straight history, that's a hybrid history where there are aspects of novelization as well as straight history.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started to write a bit more sort of personal, kind of like the novelization stuff is easier to write because I feel more of a connection to things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's actually it's something I've never thought I would do. I think I've been asked in the past whether I would write a novel. I'm like, no, it's not my thing. Whereas now I still don't think I will. I think, but I'm veering much closer than I ever thought I would. So, and I think that's because of it's not just academic now. It's more in here.
It's more personal,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned that without me even really prompting it, because one of the questions I wrote down for you, just from reading Unearthed, again, I'm not trying to embarrass you or anything, but you are a very skilled writer. Your dialogue, so like the dialogue with your friends and with, the tour guides and everything else, it's just like, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to ask Scott if he's going to consider writing a novel, because I think he'd be really good at it.
Thank you.
So take that as, as an encouragement. I mean,
yeah,
I believe that your writing is so good that you could be writing fiction. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly something closer than I thought it would be. Yeah.
Well, I'll be waiting and encouraging you from
Okay.
over here, way across the waters.
Okay.
Well, before we wrap up the segment on Unearthed, is there anything else you'd like to mention about it for our viewers?
Okay. Look, I think we've covered most of the things I wanted to say about it. It does owe an awful debt to Bill Bryson. I think
Okay.
it was reading his kind of travelogues that made me think it was something I would like to do, and I think I probably modelled it off that more than it's a bit of a homage to Bill Bryson, I suppose. Let's say that.
That's great. That's good to know. I'm sure there's a lot of Bill Bryson fans out there. He's a great writer as well. So, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think everyone out there will as well. But I love the fact that you're bringing kids into history now, and this in a fun way. Tell us about when you decided to write We Invented Civilization. And also, I really want to know the genesis of this guy here.
The origin story. Okay. Well, let's say, like, I'm a middle school teacher.
Okay.
That's my day job. Okay. And I obviously written books, like published books for a few years now. And the kids are like, I don't make a secret. It's not like I don't keep it from them, but they're always saying, "Can we read your books?" I'm like, no, not quite. It's not really meant for kids.
No.
And so this year I had I published Unearthed, and I was telling them about it, and kids are saying, "Can I read it? Can I read it?" I'm like, "No, you can't read it." And what else you've? Oh, I've written this book, but you can't read Light Bulb Moments because it's not meant for kids. Why? Why isn't it meant for kids? You teach kids. Why don't you write books for us? And then, so I'd been toying with the idea of writing a kids' version of Light Bulb Moments for a long time. And then I went, well, maybe I should think about it. I mean, I think the last time we spoke, I was still dithering about writing Light Bulb Moments 3, and I was deciding tossing up what I would do.
Right.
And then I thought, well, I think maybe this is maybe this is something I should be doing, because it would be, I've got this connection with kids. I've got the connection with history. I'm pretty good at teaching history, even though it's not, as a middle school teacher in Australia, I teach everything. It's not like in the States where you're a specialist. I teach maths, English, science, history, geography, everything.
Wow.
Fitness, PE. So that's my job.
Okay.
So I'm a generalist. But I thought maybe I should. And then in third term this year, my class had to write, where they were all being asked to write a hybrid story about an endangered animal. And I thought, well, what if I try to, in the same period they've got to write their book, I try to write a book. So
Okay.
I thought, well, I've got all the research done for light bulb moments. I don't have to do any research. I can just start writing. So what I did was, I told them at the beginning of term 3, I said, I'm going to write a book the same time you are. And by the end of the 10 weeks, we'd all finished our books. And that's how this one got done so quickly. I mean, obviously, middle school books are much shorter than the kind of books like, I think, like Unearthed's like 75,000 words, and we invented history's like maybe touching 40,000 words. But still, it was a pretty massive kind of creative burst. But it was because I had that kind of, not pressure, because kids weren't pressuring me. I put the pressure on myself. But I kind of said I was going to do it. They were doing it, and I was trying to kind of inspire them to, if I'm doing this, you can do this. And so by the end of it, I had a book. And yeah.
And I bet they were very happy to finally have.
Well, yeah, yeah. It's hilarious, because I've never had this before, because I have the school I work at. There are 1,200 kids, and there's copies in the library, and some classes have copies of the book, and some teachers are doing read alouds of the book. And I'll have kids stop me in the playground and go, Mr. Williams, I'm a big fan.
You're a rock star with the middle schoolers.
Apparently.
They're going to about your autograph and everything. Autograph my copy.
Oh, I've had that. Kids coming in with their copies.
Well, it's so fun, and it's fun for adults to read too. I mean, it's just because you have a great sense of humor, and a sense of the ridiculous at times, right? You kind of you bring that into it as well. But the character, which I think, I'm just saying this because I'm not trying to get ahead of you here in the conversation.
That's okay.
But this book is focused on civilizations. So, if we look at the table of contents, you're hitting all of the major ones. We're looking at Paleolithic age. We go into Mesopotamia, Egypt, ancient China, India, the Maya, Greece, Romans, and then, the fall of Rome. And along the way, PB, who is our strange visitor from another planet.
I ripped that off the old Superman TV show.
Really? I don't recall that.
Oh, that was in the preamble of the old George Reeves TV show. Superman, the strange visitor from another planet.
Oh, that. Okay. Yes. Yeah. The tagline at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then throughout we have, let's talk about the artwork, because it's just fantastic. Is this the same artist from the other books?
Well, it's a combination of things. In some ways, I'm the artist, because I do some drawings.
Okay.
And then in some ways, and then I might scan them in, and then I also get kind of I use AI for some of the artwork. Okay, but I'd also then touch up the AI. So it's quite a lot of photoshopping, because I can't get AI to do the things I want it to do a lot of the time. It's some of the things are too complex, and you throw in too many variables, and it just gives people 5 arms and that kind of stuff. So a lot of the time I'll hand draw some things. I'll generate some other things with AI. I mean, obviously, in 10 weeks, I couldn't come up with that many illustrations.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I Photoshop things together. So I've got, so that's my other. Before I was a teacher, I was a graphic artist. So I did a lot of this. In fact, all the typesetting, everything has been done by me.
Oh my gosh. It's such a lot of work, but it's so much, it's just fun. It's just fun you can kind of drop in and be like, you know what, I'm going to hop into ancient Mesopotamia, it's so much fun. So outside of your own school, what's the reception been like for Reinvented?
It's been positive. I think a lot of the people who've read it have enjoyed it. My biggest feedback so far, because it's only been out for a couple of months, I still haven't. Most of the feedback has been from people I know. So obviously they're going to be more complimentary than people you don't know. So I'm waiting to see what the kind of feedback is from people who I'm not so invested with, who are invested in me. But I'm really confident about it. I feel it's got the kind of things that kids are interested in. I feel that there are things out there for kids, like there's the Horrible History series and a few things like that.
Yeah.
I personally think, and I don't want to get too negative, but I think some of those books that are churned out very quickly and don't have the depth. They're I mean, there are a lot of poo jokes. I mean, I don't back away from poo jokes when they're sitting there looking at me, because kids love them. But I think a lot of those kind of the books that are out there for kids, there's two kinds. There's either the Horrible Histories kind that are mass produced because they're popular and they just sell and sell and sell. Then you've got these books, and I've been seeing them now because the ebook of We Invented Civilization has been #1 in the children's history ebook. It's a bit of a niche market, but it's been #1 in America for since it's been released.
Oh, great.
So, but that's the ebook, not so much the actual printed version. But when I look at the list, sometimes I'll look at the list, and go, who are my competitors? And there are these books, history books that get made. They don't even have authors. They're just that when they're put out by publishers.
Yeah.
And they obviously have authors, but it's not literature. I think mine is a little bit more like quality literature, which kids should be reading, I think. I mean, it's not like Shakespeare, obviously. But getting kids to read,
that's huge. Hard. Yeah, it's hard, but it's so important. And when you write with such just clarity and thoughtfulness, and you can tell it's not generated by, like you said, these I've seen those books too, which are generic history books that are usually, it'll say by Charles Rivers editors or something, and I'm what is this garbage? No, whenever I see Charles Rivers editors, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not buying this title. This is not a one person writing this. But you've got humor, and then you've got the graphics, which make it really accessible and kind of grabs the younger reader. And I noticed that it says ages 9 to 14 is the suggested age range for We Invented Civilization. I'm just hoping too that hey, Christmas is coming up, folks, and if you've got young kids and you want them to learn some history, this is it. It's fun.
I do think.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always felt my mission statement was, I think we spoke last time about my reasoning behind the light bulb moments, which was to make people interested, to get them to look at some of the more deep dive history books. I want people to get that taster, so then they get the bug for history, and they can read a lot of the books that you so admirably present to us. And that's what I think my role is. And I think particularly with kids, I think if I can engender a love of history, which often they think history is boring, and my job is to make history as unboring as possible. So, and I'll do anything within reason to make that happen. It's like involving my friend PB, who is the little character you're talking about.
The mascot, right?
Yeah. And he's actually been around for over 10 years. When I invented him for my class 10 years or 11 years ago as a class mascot. Nothing to do with it wasn't going to be a book written about him or anything like that.
Wow.
He was just a class mascot. And he's been around ever since. And basically the kids do love him. It's one of those things that people are the kids are always connect with him, and I can use him to teach things with, not like puppets, but but yeah, I had to make up a backstory for him for this. He didn't really have a story. He was just this creature, and so he ended up becoming an alien who'd crashed on Earth 20,000 years ago, and he's an incredibly long-lived species. So he
how I ended up here.
And he's been a witness to all of history. So he's not telling the story. I'm telling the story, but he butts in every so often with his little takes on things.
Yes. His definition corner. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's something that I've just used as a tool, but I think he's also kind of a little bit of a selling point. But I don't know. I was a bit concerned because, like, obviously I wanted to appeal to older, like 14, possibly 15-year-olds even. Mm-hmm. He may look a bit too cutesy. So I was really kind of debating how far I go with him. But in the end, he took on a life of his own and became more and more a part of it.
That's what I hear writers say about their characters in fiction, that sometimes once you start, you introduce them, they take on a life of their own. And then it's like you're not in control anymore. Now, is there any reason why he spray paints Twisted ancient history?
Oh, only because he's a bit of a, he's a bit of a rogue. Okay. I wanted to get the kids, I wanted to somehow show that because he was cutesy, I wanted to give him a bit of an edge. So older kids might go, okay, he's not just this sort of big-eyed sort of Pokemon character, that he's a bit edgy.
He's edgy. Yeah. That's what I thought. I was like, well, the spray painting like graffiti on Twisted means, he's kind of like he's breaking the law or something.
Yeah.
And I love your stamp of approval. PB approved for reluctant middle grade readers.
Yes, I gave that to myself.
Oh, I love it. And I'm happy to see that you've got your own imprint.
Yeah.
So did you have that when we last talked?
No, I think
another publisher. I think.
Yes, I was using a publisher, and I think I voiced my displeasure at the things that had happened, and I basically got I originally wrote Unearthed, but also in the meantime I got the rights back to the two original Light Bulb Moments books.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
And then so now I'm sort of trying to manage a kind of mini publishing company.
Right, because you're writing, you're publishing, and you're marketing too.
Yeah.
You're doing it all.
It's a lot, and I'm working, and I have to teach kids sometimes. Yeah. So
in many ways, you're a generalist in all of these areas. Not only do you teach all these different subjects in school, but now you're a busy man, Scott.
Yeah. I have a very understanding partner.
Yeah. Well, thank God for gracious partners. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I think this would make a great gift. This this Christmas for kiddos out there. And people can find this anywhere, the Barnes and Noble, right? Amazon.
Yeah, well, it's available, but it's only going to be online. I doubt it'll be in any shop because it's been published online. Basically, it's definitely probably the easiest place to get it from is Amazon. I'm not a massive Amazon fan. I love the idea of the local bookstore, but it's, Papa's got to eat.
Papa's got to eat, and there's other online bookshops too, like bookshop.org.
Yeah,
I would imagine that's there as well.
Yeah, look, I think it's there. It's in all those places. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't want to do Amazon, there's other online bookstores. And I know it's always good to have a book inside of a brick and mortar shop, but I kind of feel, and this isn't just anecdotal, I don't have the empirical evidence for this, but I feel like a lot of people buy their books online anymore.
Yeah.
It's
sad because I love bricks and mortar bookshops. I love particularly the ones that are like owned by people who love books, who just want to be there because they love recommending things. And there's a little local bookshop near where I live, and they'll put things in for me, but I do worry about the viability in the future.
Well, I do too, because there's really no large bookstore where I live, except for maybe a Barnes and Noble, a chain. And the only independent bookstores I find anymore are used bookstores, which are fine. But so I find that it's not the way it used to be when I was, coming up in the 70s and 80s and stuff. So.
Yeah.
So, well, you want to talk about your other two books that are getting kind of a refresh, a little facelift?
Okay, yeah. Yep. So because I did get the rights back to Lightbulb Moment, so I have republished it myself in my own imprint. New cover, new content. Well, not totally new. The Lightbulb Moments original book, Cave to Colosseum, not that much change in that.
Okay.
I did fix up a few things that I looked at and in retrospect went, that could be better.
Okay.
So it is a second edition, but it's not heavily changed. If you've got the first one, you don't really need to buy this one. But the second one is quite different because it's even got a different title. And I think because it changed so much, it was originally published as From Peasants to Periwigs, and no one knew what the hell a periwig was. That was one big problem we had with it. But also it I think I rushed it. I think I was trying, because it was when I first got published, and the lead time between getting published and, getting accepted for publication and actually coming out was about a year. And I felt like this was out there, the original version of this was out there, and I'm like, it wasn't out there. It had been accepted for publication. And I'm telling people, my book's being published. When? Oh, next year. And it made me think, well, I need to get on with the next one so it can come out to sort of be right on the coattails of the first one, kind of. Right. So I rushed through with the second one, and it was accepted for publication and it was published. But I really didn't feel it was as good as it could have been. So when I got the rights back, I really heavily went through it and re-edited it, came up with new illustrations, obviously gave it a new name.
Tell us what the new name is.
Yeah, so it's From Priest to Polymaths. And I mean, maybe polymaths is maybe almost as opaque as periwigs.
Hope not. I would really hope that most people would know what a polymath is, but well, we don't know. But I think it's definitely more understandable than a periwig.
yeah, fair comment.
Yes. Well, I think I might have to look up your second edition with that new name, because I'd like to check out and see what's different. Because both books were so much fun. I'm just a big fan of Lightbulb Moments. I'm not a, this disclaimer here, I'm a big fan of the series.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
The light bulb moments extended universe.
Yeah, it's growing by leaps and bounds. My other 2 copies are down in the other room, and I was like, oh, as soon as I logged on, I'm like, oh gosh, my other 2 books are downstairs. But anyway, these were so much fun. And well, let's talk about what might be what you're working on next.
Okay. Well, I decided I was really, I think that publishing We Invented Civilization and getting the reception, the immediate feedback from kids, and feeling like that maybe that was a good avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. I've decided, well, not decided, I'm quite a long way through We Rescued Civilization, which is the follow-up. And that's the sort of Middle Ages.
Okay.
After the fall of Rome. It's about Islamic Golden Age. It's about obviously monasteries and monks and Black Death and Aztecs and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely similar kind of thing. What has changed even more is it's the same format, but the narratives are becoming more elaborate. So it's less narrative, then here's a chunk of exposition, which was how it was meant to be in the original one, because it's meant to be a hybrid. It's meant to be non-fiction and fiction.
Okay.
And it's veering more to non-fiction with a little dash. No, veering more towards fiction with a little dash of non-fiction. So it's changing a little bit.
Okay.
Telling you PB has taken a life of his own. He's now presenting his primary sources that he's written over the years as part of the book, whereas before he was just doing little sidebars. Now he's taking over entire chapters and doing various things. So that's probably coming out in maybe February or March.
Wow, really soon. Okay.
Yeah, so I've got quite a fair way along with it. And then I think at this stage, I'm thinking I would be continuing with that. So because the book after that is going to be We Renaissanced History.
I love it. We Renaissanced. I had a feeling you might be going in that direction. Like you started the civilization. I'm like, I bet he's going to move into like Middle Ages and then from there. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that like the text of the 2 books coming up, the Renaissance and Middle Ages, is all covered in this book. So this book actually covers both those eras.
Yeah.
And I've decided really with the narrative going in there, it makes more sense to split it up. So there are 2 books now instead of just the 1 book. And I just think it makes sense, because the other thing is kids, certainly here in Australia anyway, I can't speak for the States, but they're more likely to read a physical book than an adult.
I think
which
that's
is a sad indictment.
Too. Yeah,
kids at school. I mean, I must admit, I do teach in a school which is a bit more where learning is very highly valued by comparison to some schools in different areas. The parents are very encouraging of like the kids' education and really push things along. So the kids are encouraged to read, and the teachers encourage the kids to read as well. So it's and I think it's just to be honest, it's slightly a marketing decision, but it's also a decision based on the fact that when I finally wrote this, I realized that it's everything. It's everything that I'm a history nut.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my little character involved there. It's all the things that I do. It's the art. It's everything coming together. It's being a teacher. It's like it's really it's maybe the series that I was meant to write all the way along.
I see. Yeah.
And I think it's a if you're looking and when you get to my age, you start to think about things like legacy. Maybe it's my legacy. Maybe.
Well,
It certainly will be. There will be a kid out there, hopefully. This is the book that turns him onto history. And even if there's only one,
yes,
that's something. But I think there's hopefully more than one.
It's an admirable call. And I that really kind of, as you were, just touching on the fact that it kind of calls in all the different parts of you, like you're a teacher, you love history. One of your goals in writing is just to make people more interested in history. And that all comes together in this book. And frankly, it's like, it's good to get history lovers, future history lovers. You got to get them young.
Yeah.
So start early. Like, it's hard to get adults maybe who come to reading late in life, or I know in the States, they just released a report saying that, like reading among adults is down 40%. You're lucky if an adult reads one book a year. I mean, it's this kind of stuff that just, I'm like, and being a person who loves not just history, but I love reading. I love books, physical books. I just can't understand it,
Yeah.
So get them young is what I say. And
yeah,
Scott,
it's like drugs. Get them hooked young.
Yeah, get them hooked young. Get them hooked young, and you make it so fun and accessible for a young person to just hop right in. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you do. Because I'm also a person through my channel, I try to also urge, get people interested in history, and yeah, my audience is mostly adults, but that's why I just love this series, because I think for people who are new to it and want to know about history, but maybe a little bit intimidated, they think it's too dry or dusty, or, there's so much interesting, like, it's just the story of humanity, and it's, people have lived interesting lives and done interesting things. And your books just really bring it out. So I just want to say thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you. Thank you for thanking me. One little proviso I want to make about the whole PB thing is, he's an alien, but he's not influencing anything. He's an observer. So he's not somebody who's inventing like changing our lives. It's not like the ancient astronauts kind of character. He's literally a bit like Star Trek. There's non-intervention at all. So he supposedly can't be seen. Occasionally he gets caught out, but basically he's not influencing. It's straight history. He's just an observer who helps to tell the story.
Well, thank you for making that clarification, so that people know that we're not talking ancient aliens here.
Yeah. Definitely not ancient aliens.
There's none of that here.
No.
Not in your books and not on my channel.
No.
Oh, wow. Well, I can't wait to see We Rescued Civilization next year. And I hope you'll come back on again. I'd
love to come back.
Anytime. I mean, you have an open invitation, Scott. I enjoy talking to you.
Same.
Thank you again. And just keep in the back of your mind, maybe try for a novel at some point.
Yeah. I do think I'm heading that way. In fact, I mean, like I said, with the PB's taking a life of his own. There's actually room for a kid's PB novel. And I've been seriously thinking about that. It would obviously be history related, because that's
what he does.
That's what he does.
I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I get excited for I try. My writing is kind of different than people who are creating fiction and things like that. But I really just love encouraging people with a gift to keep going,
Mm.
and you've got a gift. So
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
keep
that.
informing us, and
I'll do
get
my
these
best.
kids on board with history.
Yes. I'll keep on going into the future then.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us here today, Scott.
Thank you so much, Peg.
Yeah, and wishing you all success with Unearthed, and obviously We Invented Civilization, but we've got more books coming from Scott.
Yes.
So you'll be back soon. But take care down under.
You too. Yes. Do my
All right,
best.
and we'll talk soon.
Okay.